Hello and welcome to Corthos Island on this bright and sunny day under what seems to be my favourite tree on this map as it's sort of fairly alone and in a peaceful area. Why have I come here with a level 32 character? For a start, I wanted to go somewhere sunny and peaceful because around here right now it's absolutely pouring down, leaden grey skies, and spring simply refuses to appear. So yeah, I just felt like immersing myself in something like this and seeing a bit of a nice scenery as a backdrop. So what am I doing here with a character that's not purple and that is capped at the moment? Well, might you ask? I thought, in keeping with the tradition of the channel, to not do what is slated in the comments thing. I think we've got Sorcerer down as the next one for purple, haven't we? Which I was looking forward to, but one or two of you have already mentioned the changes to ranged, and I've touched on it in a previous recording I made. Well, both the changes to the draconic incarnation, the dragon breath thing there, and to the ranged with the AoE. I've had chance to play. I haven't been on the game too much lately, but I have had chance to play around a little bit with the AoE. As you can see here, I've got a couple of them on my bar. That one you suggested, Wagon, the Shadow Strike from the Shadow Dancer Destiny. It's on a nice short cooldown, that one. My only gripe with it is it has no crowd control with it. But an AoE with plus critical threat range and plus critical multiplier, you can't complain at that. And that's been doing very nicely, as has the scatter shot from the excuse me, from the Horizon Walker Destiny enhancement tree. I'll get it right in a minute. Please excuse the voice. I've not been so well lately. I'm just recovering a bit, so this is as much a test of my voice as anything else. Um, so yes, I was thinking that maybe we could use Red, my little halfling archer. He's always been an archer. I created him way back when, way before the bow pass. I was just curious to see how the bow situation was overall. And let's just say, with regard to how difficult it is to solo a bow character from 1 to 30, I was not disappointed. I did much of it on hard, maximum, some of it even on normal, and I was struggling like hell. I won't deny that, really struggling. So obviously times have changed now, and Red has got some past lives under his belt. I just thought it'd be interesting now with this new AoE because I've quite enjoyed it. I know what people are saying. I totally get it. The Reaper 10 crowd who are facing up to end bosses with 10 millions of hit points, and they depended on that every 8 seconds that 100,000 plus hit that the Hunt's End was giving. Uh, I totally get where they're coming from, that they can't do that anymore. But for the rank and file stuff, the regular trash, that Red was a liability for, really. If I went in with, let's say, a tanky character and I was having to plink, plink, plink everything down with no AoE whatsoever, I wasn't I was probably the worst to support them until we got to the end boss. Whereas now, with stuff like this, it really does change the game. We did a little test, as I mentioned yesterday, with the Bear's Tanky Warlock, and during one of those, it was in one of the lower quad Morgrave quests, legendary. We kept the same level of difficulty we've always done, so Reaper 6, so it was quite challenging. And at one stage, which quest is it now? I think it's the one where you have to go through 3 separate sections. There's a section with devils, a section with the archons, and there's a section with something else, whatever that is. And you have to light a rune in each one. If you've been through that pack, you'll know the one I mean. And in one of those areas, there are 3 alcoves, and each one contains a group of opponents. And in my infinite wisdom, I decided to go and bait all 3 at once, and we had this absolute pile of enemies converging on the bear, who held the doorway as well as she could while I scuttled off behind. And I was just hammering that mass of things with these 2 AoEs. And to my immense surprise, I mean, obviously she's got AoE on that warlock build as well. The 2 blasts and the tempest and the tentacles. But even so, to my immense surprise, we managed to come through that. There must have been, well, I bet 20 plus all told on the screen at once, all crowding round that doorway. It was a disaster. We should have done it one by one, but it just kind of told me that this range thing is, this AoE thing it's not only fun, you know, to be able to contribute in a different way as a ranged character, to kind of break the mold, so to speak, but it's effective as well, especially if you have a character like that, or any melee, but particularly a tank, to sort of gather the things around you for that shot. It's really, really good, and a great deal of fun. I particularly like the animation and the noise on this scatter shot. It's like a mini explosions going off. You sort of see the flash, and you hear the bit of a boom, like an exploding arrow or something. So I'm a big fan of this, particularly as the old scatter shot was hopelessly broken and just not worth using. So that's been nice to see. So yeah, it's my hope, for only the second time in Red's career here, to go through again as a standard bow user, because he's always levelled as an inquisitive, aside from that very first time when I took him to the cap. And he's levelled as an inquisitive because that's just the more expedient way to do it. They right out of the gate they hit harder, just like the repeaters do. Those repeating crossbows are very good, aren't they? Especially in the early levels. So I've always done that, but it's a bit of a pain in the butt, because you're having to kind of, well, to tailor all the trees around the inquisitive tree, and to in some cases spec feats for that as well. So like, for example, at level 3 I would take rapid reload, which is pretty essential for an inquisitive crossbow build, unless you have a couple of artificer, in which case it's auto granted. So yeah, I would take that and then swap it out when I got to the cap. So all that kind of stuff is a bit of a mess about, but it was just the most expedient way to get there. So I would like to try now as a proper bow user, and see how our fortunes compare. To that end, I'm going to be borrowing the services of a tanky cleric from the bear party, who will be coming down to 1 with me. We're going to be going through together, and as we haven't featured a cleric on the channel yet, I was thinking maybe we could also discuss a little bit what she's doing. It's a paladin cleric hybrid, I think, but mostly cleric, and she's going to explain a little about her build and what makes it tick and that kind of thing. I'm probably going to learn along the way, because the only cleric I've ever done was probably a copy paste of the Favoured Soul we did with purple a while back, which I thoroughly enjoyed, but it's got nothing to do with the cleric we're going to see this time around. So why am I here wasting your valuable time and not down at level 1 doing the quest? Well, I thought I could take this opportunity, as Red's been running the hybrid ranged build using the Horizon Walker as the main tree. It's that excellent and loads of work gone into it in the forum post devoted to it. That Ying's Reaper Bow, it's called, I think. Do a search for it on Google and you're sure to bring it up. So big thanks to him for posting all that. I've thoroughly enjoyed the build. It's done very nicely, made plenty of Reaper XP for Red. I wanted to sort of do as much for me as for anything else, to do a bit of a a snapshot of where we are now with that, the kinds of things that we've got that we're going to miss when we go back, because the idea is to go back as a full Dark Hunter Ranger, 20 levels of Dark Hunter. I'm thinking Dark Hunter rather than standard Ranger. For a start, there's 5 sneak attack dice up for grabs there, and secondly, the ability to do traps. Red's always been one of the few who can do the traps in our little group, so that's quite helpful, and I would like to keep that. So I'd like to sort of do. I've made a little list of the positives and the negatives, the things we're going to gain and lose. So I'd just like to do a bit of a snapshot, see where we're at now, have a little look at because he's got all his gear on. So maybe if we start with the ranged power, so sitting at 299 ranged power, 129 double shot. I think the rest will be comparable because we're going to use the same gear and everything at the end game. So I just wanted to do a little look now. At the moment, enhancements wise, as I mentioned, we are big in. Oh, I should probably start with the class split, shouldn't I? So as the build describes it, the Ying's Reaper Bow, you've got 13 Rogue for the sneak attack dice, 6 Ranger, which gets you enough for many shot, and also the excellent, although I'm not using it at the moment, I don't have any points in Deepwood, or 1 point in Deepwood at the moment, the sniper shot, which is very good. The reason I'm not using it is it used to be typically paired with the old Hunt's End, as most of you I'm sure will know, to get the enormous 5 and even 6 figure damages. But now that Hunt's End is just a straight hit and damage, you don't actually need something to pair with it. So I'm trying at the moment without that investment in Deepwood. Because for my money, the stuff low down in Deepwood, there isn't an awful lot of nice stuff, like low-hanging fruit there. So I'm just experimenting a little bit ahead of the going back. So what was I going to say? Yeah, just a little. So at the moment we've got 13 Rogue, which obviously gets us 7 sneak attack dice, plus we have access to evasion from there, obviously, which becomes improved evasion with one of the Rogue choices we can take along the way, and that turns into, with the 3rd core of Shadow Dancer in Epic, that turns into no failing reflex saves on a 1, which is really handy. What else do we get from Rogue? Oh, of this, of course, improved uncanny dodge, really nice. So 20 seconds of 50% uncapped dodge bonus. So if you combine that with the Hood of Unrest, you're almost unhittable for those 20 seconds. Although I would still prefer to be out of the way of everything. So these are the kinds of things we're going to lose, and these are the kinds of reasons that people like to multi-class into Rogue for these kinds of builds. So the improved uncanny dodge, all these sneak attack dice, the evasion, Now, evasion on a Dark Hunter, you don't have it by default. You would have to pick it up in the Shadow Dancer tree if you wanted it, which I do plan to do with the pure build. Also, the one Paladin is for the imbue. You can quite justifiably argue this is the best imbue in the game, apart from the Inquisitive one, because it's scaling there, as you can see, with 200% ranged power, so you don't have to mess about gearing for it like you would for, say, an arcane archer imbue, which goes off spell power, so you've got to mess about putting spell power on your gear if you want that to be decent. And also it's using light damage, which very few things are resistant to, and I don't think anything is immune to. So really nice one, that one, to have just for the sake of one Paladin level and 1 point invested in that Knight of the Chalice tree. So that's why that split. So these are the things we're going to be losing. We're going to be losing the nice imbue. We'll be going with the Dark Hunter imbue, because that's the only one that will be... actually, it's not the only one available. I could... No, as a Dark Hunter you don't get the Arcane Archer tree, so it will be the only one available. It's okay. Compared to this Paladin one, it's not any great shakes. And we'll be losing a lot of imbue dice as well, because... another big draw of the Rogue, if I can just bring up the enhancement tree, this Assassin tree, I'm willing to bet tons of people multi-class into Rogue so they can get the goodies from here. You've got these low-hanging fruit here. For 6 points you can get 3 imbue dice. That's got to be the best one for that kind of thing. And for the Inquisitives out there who have the best imbue, that's got to be high on the list of priorities, I would think. Sneak attack dice also in this tree, and if you go up high enough, you've got the just like in the Deepwood tree, you've got the killer bonus to double shot, which obviously for standard bow builds is great. For the Inquisitive type or arty type builds, less so, because it's nerfed quite heavily, isn't it? Is it 50% only of double shot you get for an Inquisitive, I think? Another thing in favour of the hybrid build is the incredible extra speed you get from the 3 points in the Thief Acrobat tree. You get this 1% faster for each of your rogue levels, so that for us that's 13%, which I can tell you makes a huge difference. That's a really, really big deal. I've thoroughly enjoyed having that. It gets me out of as much trouble as I inflict on myself. And another draw of the multi-class build, obviously, is that you can have, if you're doing an Inquisitive or if you're doing the Horizon Walker, you can still have a strong capstone. You have a lot of your power coming from the Universal Tree, so you're not losing out on a capstone, but you're still getting all the goodies from the multi-class things. So that's really nice. The thing obviously I'm going to miss this scatter shot now, that's for sure. The thing I will miss the most otherwise, because we will be putting some points in Horizon, enough to get, I think most Dex builds, if not all of them, will put enough to get this no step missed, because I think I'm right in saying this is the only Dex trans at the moment. But the big miss for me will be that thing there, the wings. Now at the time of recording, it's actually just released the update 67, so hope you all enjoy the new quests. We're going to try and do a little recording on those, our first impressions. But the reason I've mentioned it is they've also introduced this new tumble mechanic thing, haven't they? I noticed there's a little tumble icon that by default appears just underneath your character thing. I didn't want it there because I'm not using tumble at the moment, so I just hid it behind the hotbars at the moment, so it wouldn't annoy me. But it just says how many charges you've got of tumble. But I'm thinking that maybe we can use the next life for red as an opportunity to test this thing out, because I won't have any wings or any possibility to get any, and it's going to be a miss for me. I'm going to be very vulnerable without that. So tumble is the obvious replacement, particularly as a dex build, and it's a dex skill, should be able to run that up quite high. So I'm looking forward actually to trying that. On any build with wings, I would completely ignore it, but as we don't have it, and I would miss it, I'm going to give it a go and see what we can come up with there as well. I have noticed, worryingly, that some people seem to like to manage the level of tumble that they have, so they get the rolly animation and not this, what the game's calling a dive forward, which seems to happen at 36 or above. If I was putting this out immediately after recording, I would love to know. Well, actually, I would still like to know, because I probably still won't know at the time you get to see this. If anybody can tell me what's the downside of this dive forward, why do people not like that? Because the chances are with red, he's going to, unless I really don't put any points in at all, with the decks he'll end up with. I mean, what do we have here? 73 with the Reaper stuff thrown in, and the little bits of what does he have? He has, I think he uses what's it called now? The thing from the, I should have memorised this. Is it Essence of Betrayal from the? He's just about to do a TR. This is why we've got all this mess in here. It should still be in here somewhere. That thing. Essence of Betrayal from the Yugoloth. I think that gives another 2 decks. So we're not far off 80, I don't think, by the time all said and done. So I would have thought that we can at least have an investigation. For the first time ever for me, I've never done anything with tumble. So that'll be one to look out for. I'm sure there'll be plenty of blunders along the way. Yeah, so differences with the ranged as is now and as was before. I've already touched on the, how impactful the AoE has been, for me at least, in regular questing. I've noticed as well, of course, on the end bosses, it's taken me a while to grind them down, because I've tended to do the trials with the company of a tank who hasn't been doing much damage. So with me not doing nearly as much as I was used to against the end boss, it has been a bit of a chore, but still manageable. I mean, obviously you can take that to extremes and raid boss, and I'm sure it would be tougher again. But I happen to think it's kind of fair enough that we were discussing this with somebody and somebody else in the Bear Party recently, and for the range to be doing, comparable maybe to the melee even, because the melee obviously has adrenaline and boulder's might in the Fury tree. But the melee has to pay for that in terms of getting absolutely clattered when they come into range for the opponent to be hammering them, whereas a character like this can just sit on its ass at the back of the room, totally unharmed, and probably with zero investment into defences, and still contribute massive damage on the target. So there is a certain argument there for saying it's a little bit unfair to be doing that kind of thing. Me personally, even without that, whatever you think of that argument, I think I might actually prefer the ranged as it is now, because previously, even as good as my single target damage was, and I was nowhere near the top, the 100,000 plus people who were doing with the hunt send and sniper shot or whatever they were using. But I did see things, you know, in excess of 50, between 50 and 75 maybe on occasion, and I was delighted at that. But still, it's only on a single target. Whereas now, I'm a lot more apt to help a team or a small group, as we usually have, you know, with the area damage as and when needed. And that's lovely. And as a pure ranger next time around, we're going to be going all out in the deep wood tree. So we're going to end up with the headshot or whatever it's called now. I think it's called devastating shot now. They've renamed it to, which is a decent amount of damage. As far as I remember, it's an automatic crit in an AoE, and I think it's a blind at the moment that can't be saved against. So that's as tasty as hell, and that's on, I think, a 12-second cooldown. So I really look forward to using that, and everything that hits is then going to be vulnerable to sneak attack as well. So from my point of view, it's probably helped my situation with the ranged. And let's not forget that, to my mind at least, if you leave to one side the removal of the hunt's end, there's a lot of stuff in here that wasn't in Shiradi before that actually benefits most, if not all, ranged builds. For example, the 3 imbue dice you can now get up here. That's a multi-selector now, isn't it? That used to be just something to do with throwers. So if you weren't a thrower build, that was utterly useless. Here, 30% less threat from all sources for 1 action point. That's ridiculously good for me. Is that another new one? That is 10% damage against helpless. Not terrible. I think that's the same. That's a multi-selector now, isn't it? The favoured enemy Fey. No, that's the big one I've noticed. Well, these two are the big ones I've noticed. Neither of them was there before, and they're both a big help to what you're trying to do as a ranged. Particularly, I guess, on the things that are shooting more projectiles and faster than the standard bow builds would. The arties and the inquisitives of this world, who were doing lots with where imbue dice is making a much bigger impact, I think, than on the standard bow. That's a big deal. So it's definitely not all doom and gloom, I don't think. What was I going to say? Yeah, my plan was for the pure build to try maybe obviously Shiradi as the main one, and I wanted to try Dreadnought as the second one to go for the stun. But I just don't think. Well, I know from what I've seen here, we aren't quite going to have the points to be able to do it. I'd have to put 11 in Shadow at least for the evasion in there, which just wouldn't leave me enough to get quite to lay waste. If he was a maxed out epic destined one with mid-70s points to spend, then he could do. But we're gonna have to. We're just gonna have to do the best we can with that. So back to the positives. Well, the things we're gonna gain and lose. Let's call it like that. So not being in Horizon Walker, or at least not big into Horizon Walker, we're going to lose the scatter shot, which is going to be a pain, but we will gain that headshot I've just mentioned, that devastating shot. So I look forward to using that. And that will mean our many shot charges get used for the single target things instead of being, because these share a cooldown if you didn't know. They share a pool of charges, the scatter shot and the many shot. So now that scatter shot's suddenly useful, my many shot charges have taken a bit of hammer. Also, Horizon Walker Capstone gives 2 many shot charges, I think, doesn't it? So we're gonna lose a bit on that too. Yeah, sneak attack dice. It's not just the amount of rogue levels that we had that we're going to lose dice on. There's the the level 27 enhancement. I think with 12 levels of rogue, you can choose. Is it improved sneak attack or something like that? Gets you 3 extra sneak dice. But if you don't have 12 levels of rogue, you can't take that. So that's going to be quite a loss. Although the capstone for the Deepwood, I've noticed, is huge. There's 3 sneak dice in there, plus is it 20 ranged power, and there's other good stuff in there as well. I think it makes you always in sneak attack range too, that capstone, which I don't think you can get that anywhere else. Normally you have to kind of watch your distance to the targets to be able to get the sneak attacks in. So with that thing active, I could be sort of halfway across the map, and if I can see it, I can hit it, sneak attack it. So that will be very nice to be a bit safer, perhaps. Imbue dice are going to take a big hit. As I mentioned, we have access to these really nice low-hanging fruits in the assassin tree. Obviously, as a dark hunter, we won't have that. We will get access to the... I can't show you the dark hunter tree here, but it does have some imbue dice at tier 3, but those are sort of locked behind tier 2 and 1 investments. It would cost you 9 points to get those 3 dice, and I'm just not prepared to pay that. Also, we won't get the arcane archer tree as a dark hunter, so although we'll have a decent amount of sneak dice, the imbue dice are going to take a hit from being pure, so that's a consideration. If you're wondering why I was insisting on doing pure for this time around, I think the biggest factor is the healing side of things. I've seen that the Dark Hunter gets the bottles. Now I wouldn't say I'm a huge critic of the bottles. I'm not a massive fan, but I've also seen that they get auto-granted accelerate, don't they, for those healing bottles? And they actually go quite high up. I think, don't they get cure critical, which the standard ranger stops at cure serious? So not only is it in an AoE, but it's one step higher as well, which is likely to mean that we don't have to go messing about in a epic tree just to acquire a heal, which I certainly did with this one. The only reason I haven't is that I was playing with a serious tank yesterday, so just relying on the healing spring as and when. But normally I would always have to have a heal for me to top up and to help others when needed. So that does mean that we can put, as seen here, we can take 3 very competitive trees for our ranged build, which is a big plus, I think, for the pure build. Yeah, the no evasion, I plan to cure that by going in the Shadow Dancer tree, the 3rd core, but that does mean we'll have to go through the whole of Heroic and probably much of Epic as well with no evasion. So that will not be ideal, and that's one definitely in favour of the hybrid build. Losing the rogue speed will definitely hurt. So we'll be just at standard speed, unfortunately, and yeah, I don't think there's much I can do about that. As mentioned already, we'll also lose the wings, so we're going to try and experiment with a tumble and see what we can do with that. And we're also losing the uncanny dodge, unfortunately, but as I don't plan to solo too much, hopefully not at all, in the life to come, hopefully the impact of losing these defensive things will be less than it would be if we were trying to solo. So on the plus side, I've already mentioned that. Now, it's an interesting one, this. We will get... I don't have the improved precise shot on this build. Just the changing over and losing the stacks, the power from the archer's focus, I I guess you could say there are some situations like maybe in a tight corridor with lots of things packed in, like maybe in Grim and Barrett, that style of thing. But generally speaking, especially if playing with a tanky character and things are in a circle around that character, these AOE hits are what you want for that. You don't really have the necessity to hit in a straight line, so I'm not even sure I will use. Obviously, it'll get auto granted for 11 levels of Ranger, but I'm not sure I'll use the IPS at all in the life to come. I guess we'll see. There might be some uses for it. Maybe before we get, because we're only going to get the headshot thing at 12, aren't we? Before that, I suppose I could make use of the scatter shot, although I won't be going high enough with the end build in Horizon Walker to get that. And unfortunately, the lowest hanging one, the Inferno shot from the Arcane Archer tree, we won't have access to, because Dark Hunter doesn't get that tree. I debated just doing a standard Ranger to have access to that tree, but I'm losing then 5 sneak attack dice from the Dark Hunter tree. So, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. Trap abilities I've mentioned already. We will, of course, get more favoured enemies by doing a pure. Now, the Dark Hunter only has a limited amount of those, but oh, and we're gonna lose obviously the capstone from the Horizon Walker reference to favoured enemies, and that makes, if I understand it right, it doubles the favoured enemy bonus. The marked target becomes a favoured enemy, so if you've marked something, you're getting twice the. Yeah, it's saying there you get favoured enemy bonuses twice, so that's quite a big deal against an end boss. We won't be getting access to that. But generally, against unmarked stuff, I don't tend to mark things unless it's like a mini boss or an end boss or a big reaper or something like that. That's going to take a bit of putting down. Just by the time I've marked it, it's already on its way to disappearing. So don't tend to run into that too often. Heals I've already mentioned. Yeah, I touched on this Deepwood capstone. Let's just, because we've mentioned quite a bit about the stuff that we're going to lose. Let's just mention this Deepwood tree in general. I can't bring it up on screen, unfortunately, because I don't have it on the as part of the. Do I have it Deepwood as part of the build? No, I don't think I do. Should probably have made room for at least 1 point in there for the first core gives 1 sneak attack dice, but it doesn't look like I have. So yeah, just in general, that's gonna give us I would hope more double shot and more ranged power than we've got now. I mean, this capstone, just to touch on this for a moment, I'm not sure there's too many better in the game. 4 decks, 3 sneak attack dice, all was in point blank shot range. Well, that's a bit of a non-entity, because I think I'm right in saying at the top of Shiradi there is the same thing, isn't there? Yeah, but that one doesn't have the sneak attack thing, which the Deepwood capstone does. So we're always in sneak attack range as well. 20 positive spell power, 20 ranged power. That's a hell of a thing to have. So, and there are sneak attack dice in the cores as well. We'll be getting the sniper shot, which is very nice against nasties that are in your face that you just want to stall for a second or two. So I'll be interested to see where we get to it, how we stack up in comparison. I would guess that our ranged power and well, sitting ranged power and double shot, I'm hoping both of those will be significantly higher using the deep wood over the horizon. So we'll just have to wait and see for that. I think I've waffled on far too much there, but as much for me as anything else, I just wanted to do a little snapshot of where we are now, what the good elements to the multi-class build have been, and then compare when we go ahead and do the standard Ranger bow build, which I have never, I say never, well, I've never done a Dark Hunter bow build before, so no, I haven't. Although I don't plan to invest too much, if anything, in the actual Dark Hunter tree. The objective is just to assess where ranged is now, and is it viable to level as a proper bow build, and what will be the impact during the leveling process of these ranged, so these AOE abilities, which I thoroughly look forward to seeing. Okay, I think that's more than enough here. We will be back in the next day or two with the first installment. What we're going to call this new thing? Maybe Red's Redemption, because he spent much of his time dead, so I used to refer to him as Red's Dead. Perhaps Red's Redemption. Okay, thank you very much as always for looking, and we'll speak to you soon. Take care.